Hello, online world. This is number six of the senior social, and I've learned so much with the volunteers that have worked with me, and from Lauren Linzetti, your art teacher, to make artwork and hopefully share on AGO Makes. I want to begin, just reflecting on one day seeing that sky and thinking about our city and the way people move in the city, which is very different from the way people move around right now. I am going to, I think, move to, yes, the land acknowledgement. The Art Gallery of Ontario operates on the land that is the territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga Nation and was also the territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Toronto is also governed by a treaty between the federal government of Canada and the Mississaugas of the Credit Anishinaabe Nation. Toronto has always been a trading center for First Nations. All right, now I get to again introduce you to Anna and Abigail.
Hello, Anna. Hello, Anna. Hello, Abigail. And hello. I want to give those two words before we get looking at the artist and the artworks. So I was thinking of the words, looking up and looking down, as in like looking down on Earth and looking up to the stars or the sky. And I'll give you an example of sort of what came to mind for me with these two words is gravity. And not only that, but I was, well into my teens before I ever went on a roller coaster. And to me, that was like the scariest and most exhilarating moment in my life of looking up, 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 and then very fast, down, 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 down. And anyway, so roller coaster and gravity is what comes to mind for me. How about you, Anna?
With
looking up and looking down, as though you have a perspective on Earth and you have a perspective on the heavens or the galaxy.
To me, that's about flying and being up in the clouds. I'm a birder, and I love watching birds fly. And to me, the idea of being a bird and being able to fly and soaring, I don't feel the exhilaration of gravity. I feel peacefulness. I feel it's like floating in water, except it's floating in air. And to me, that's the image that comes, and there's a peacefulness to it, something beautiful about that.
Thank you for sharing that. Abigail, for you.
I think for me, it comes in dreams, and I'm sure everybody has these kinds of dreams where you're flying, and the ones that I tend to have are I'm flying like a bird, and so it's that sense of going on, not flapping my wings, but just floating on air currents over mountains and so forth, so that I can look down on the earth from such a height that I can no longer see individual trees or mountains of things. It's the sense of things are swirling and the colors blend. And also I'm a big fan of looking at photographs from Hubble telescopes and so forth. And a set of photographs that are just being made available are some photographs of Jupiter that are just coming in. But when I looked at it next to one of the Gerald Gladstone, it's as if Gerald Gladstone years ago painted what he thought Jupiter might look like. It's uncanny.
Right. Yeah.
So the beauty of even if we can't ourselves personally fly out to places, we can certainly see the beauty of the stars and so forth.
Since you just mentioned Gerald Gladstone, I figure we should be looking at that painting. So there we go. yeah, it might not be the first thing that people think of as galaxy. And we've had so many conversations in senior socials about, you know, the combination, that title, and particularly with abstract pieces, and then what that, you know, creates for you in terms of a you know, suggestiveness and association. Because without that title, maybe somebody wouldn't see galaxy. But if you, yeah, if you read a little bit about Gerald Gladstone, you know that very much he was rooted, you know, on the earth, very, very, very rooted on the ground, but absolutely fascinated with the you know, the galaxy. And I think maybe, I mean, this was created in 1962, and what was it? The first man on the moon, right? 1969. So if, you know, if he was, how can I say, he was a self-educator, like he mostly educated himself. He studied with, you know, Henry Moore and traveled, but I think, you know, it's one of these situations where, you know, he educated himself to do sculptures, you know, fountains. Very close to me in the National Exhibition grounds is a fountain designed by Gerald Gladstone. But I think of that too as some kind of like telescopic sort of like projection to looking at the sky. And to mention to our online viewers, you know, Gerald Gladstone, and this, you know, it's a painting we're looking at, his London series. So when he was with Henry Moore, it's, you know, it's we're going to be what we're focusing on in terms of creating artwork ourselves. So this technique. Okay, so again, maybe based on those two words, Anna and Abigail. Maybe Anna, go ahead if you can make a connection, I guess, from what you suggested about yourself to this painting.
Well, this one is definitely looking up and looking out, and I see, you know, the wind, and I presume in his thinking, you know, the galaxy, and this is showing the explosion and the dynamism of space sort of extending outwards, and then unseeable dark areas that you can't get to, but you know are there, and mystery. And so to me, yeah, this would be looking up. If I was that bird, there are areas that are safer, that are closer, and then there are the sort of mysterious areas off in the distance, way beyond anything we can see. And there's motion here. I love the motion. It's to me like wind, or it could be water, but I know in this case, I presume it is. The idea is that it's of, you know, the air and the atmosphere and things sort of spreading outwards with energy, and then it sort of draws you back towards the unseeable infinity at the end. It's very beautiful.
Thank you. Abigail.
Yeah, I like you, Anna. I find this is so beautiful. I feel very drawn into it. And immediately what comes to mind is those times when I've gone to see Niagara Falls and I'm looking down into the whoosh of the water at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had that as you mentioned, Anna, that sense of the movement of it. And yet with some of the shapes, there's almost like a petal shape going on as well. So I could even be looking into a beautiful chrysanthemum and so on. But whatever the shape conjures up in my imagination, I feel very drawn into it. It's very inviting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see water like you, Abigail, almost more than anything else. My immediate reaction, but to me, that immediately, without knowing maybe more about the background, speaks water, speaks motion, speaks depth, and then surface, speaks things sort of spreading out, and yeah, it's interesting. I could see how it could be atmosphere, but it is also watery, and there's mystery to it, and then there's light on the surface.
Yeah. The search for water now in the universe, right?
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's what he's getting at. It is very beautiful, but it could be a flower too, because those shapes in the front are very defined. They're not random.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you too. This is great. I'm going to move on now to our next artist. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh, it's
Vieira
gorgeous.
da Silva.
Love it.
And wow, she was age 46 when she painted this. And I just want to point out quickly the date. How smart of the Women's Committee Fund to buy this in 1957, just a few years after she painted it, right? It's like, woo,
hot off the presses. It was still
yeah. Love it. Yeah, so I thought this would be an interesting comparison to the Gerald Gladstone, who was, he was very rooted to the earth and with this kind of feeling of, access mundi to the universe. But Vieira da Silva, very connected to people on earth and their movement, and in particular for her in Paris. She even imagined people walking around and having this kind of string that kind of follows them and shows her sort of where people are kind of clustering and going to and moving, how they're moving around in the city. And I'm like, wow, is this not so about today? The having an app on your phone to kind of know, where your kid is, or where COVID, where you might have encountered COVID. So I just have a whole new appreciation for Marie-Helene Vieira da Silva and this particular one, Nocturnal Space. And I think of, did she ever climb that Eiffel Tower and look down on, the city? Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to open it up because I want to hear from you too, your thoughts about this painting. And yeah, Anna.
Well, it's interesting. So the name of it, Nocturnal Space, suggests this is about looking up to me. And this is a starscape, a nighttime starscape with
cool
the twinkling of the stars and the different shapes. And, some things appear different colors when you're looking up in a pattern, in a grid. So I can see that, but frankly, to me, it is more looking down. And it's interesting, looking at the date, 1954, she would not have done as much flying as we have. When you're in a jet and you're high up, well, she in 1954, I'm gonna guess, hadn't done as much flying. But that to me looks like what you see when you fly over a city from a height. But that actually may, in fact, as you said, maybe she did go up on the Eiffel Tower. But I can see, if at Nocturnal Space, that could well be looking up at the stars.
Yeah, it could go both ways.
It really could.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. I love it.
Abigail.
Yeah, similarly, my immediate thought was I was looking down at an urban scape, or even kind of farmland, just that sense of the grids of city, or the grids of a map even, because it's got a very map-like structure. So I was less drawn to it being something up in the sky, just because it's got the very square grids to it. So I was thinking Nocturnal Space was more about, say, nighttime explorations, that perhaps the
looking at space.
Yeah, then looking at space. But again, my imagination in space is more about things swirling than in grids, but who knows? I also very much appreciated seeing a female artist, because a female artist is not represented well. And as I've again done research, I have discovered more and more women who have broken through in abstract art and are not represented well through this last century. So it just does my heart a lot of good to see such a talented woman, and her other work is just phenomenal.
I have to admit, having this discussion with the two of you, all of a sudden I am seeing skyscrapers. I'm seeing, sadly, even having too many lights on, and everybody at home right now, everybody in their condos and stuff, and birds hitting windows. I mean, I'm just speaking of like, you know, sky and then land and humans, the interaction of humans and, you know, nature. Anyway, I don't want to go down that dark path, but it happens sometimes, right? I'm seeing like, you know, car parking here, and I'm seeing, you know, lights on, and like, so I'm seeing it sort of vertical. So I love the fact that all of a sudden you take some time, you look at something, and you look at it, you know, going, you know, as though it's like, yeah, something that in the universe, or maybe it's even more futuristic in the universe, who knows? And then you look at it from, you know, straight down, as though you're flying over it, and maybe flat on. So we're going to have so much fun making our art, right? Because we can, you know, just be so experimental and interpret it how we like. I'm going to move now to then just to I like to compare, like see the two of them, and at the same time, let's talk about those smells and colors associated with this, and see if there's any connection. There might not be a connection, but we had talked about coffee and chocolate, and so maybe do either one of you have some coffee and chocolate with you?
I have coffee.
Yeah.
I did not bring my chocolate. It's too early in the morning.
Not for me.
If I start now, I'll never stop.
All right. Oh, Abigail, what do you have there?
Well, I love chocolate, especially dark chocolate. And I have this really lovely mix. So it's very hard to see, but it's chunks, crumbles of stuff, pellets almost, to make a very thick dark chocolate drink. So you can either have it as a small demi-tasse of very thick chocolate, or add extra milk. So it's a traditional hot chocolate drink. But it's just such a, I mean, it's quite expensive as good chocolate is, and it's fair trade and organic, I might say. So I'm not giving away the particular producer of it, but I just love it as a special treat occasionally. But I think the Marie-Hélène piece reminds me of that dark chocolate, because it's inviting into that darkness, into kind of a, and other people may not see coziness, but I kind of see it's cozy. It's at night. There's less, there are less people around. It's quieter perhaps. And so to sit late at night with a lovely dark hot chocolate is just so delicious. And yeah, and the smell, the aroma, and this particular chocolate producer, you go and purchase chocolate by different places in the world, and it's like wine tasting. You know, you've got acidic overtones, and a lingering leather taste on the palate, and those kinds of comments. And yes, coffee.
That's what I'm smelling. I'm smelling the beans before they're ground. And this is like one of my favorite things to do, but I have to also say, like, I am such an early bird, like in terms of, you know, I get up really early to get through the night. I would need definitely a cup of coffee. So for me, yeah, it's, you know, Vieira da Silva, I need coffee for that. And for the Gladstone, I'm picturing myself wandering around the city, and even in Exhibition Stadium, and maybe even taking one of those roller coasters, you know, when we had those days of the exhibition. So for me, I would definitely probably be enjoying some chocolate, maybe chocolate fudge.
That's funny. For me, the Gladstone has a lightness to it, has a delicacy that makes me think, if in a coffee and chocolate connection, unlike the dark richness of the other, which certainly brings to mind the darkness of dark chocolate and dark coffee, but and it may just be visual, but there's also the lightness of the shapes and the sort of airiness of the Gladstone that makes me think of, you know, a cafe au lait with froth on it, and the lightness that you get, as opposed to something dark and earthbound, because it isn't dark and earthbound to me, or white chocolate that has, again, a sort of light, beautiful, delicate texture and delicate flavor, because the delicacy of the Gladstone to me makes me think of those lighter versions of coffee and chocolate as opposed to rich. It's cooler.
Thank you so much, Anna and Abigail. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Doris. Bye now. We'll see you soon.
See you
Thank you,
soon.
guys.
Yeah, see you
Bye.
soon. Bye.